Hello and welcome to the Clashing of Steel. And today, two Sulla players are playing on the defensive. As you see, one is I with the sword infantry, and the other one is Guillotina or something like that with light artillery. As often as I play this commander or any other type of defensive commander, I usually give my support to some form of ranged units. Here we only had light artilleries. I mean, we did have javelins, but just to be safe I went for the light artillery. Seeing as we had elephants, I was afraid that they might have as well. This Sulla player is actually rather great. He built the stakes around him. He even built some practically inside my troops. I was scared there for a moment. And he built one in front of us as well. He sets himself up in the middle of those stakes, and I leave two of my units to defend him. I'm pulling one unit back because I just can't fit those troops inside there. It would have been a lot better for those light artilleries here if we would have gotten some view from the watchtower, if someone would have taken it. But no worries, we still manage. Right now the light artillery is just hoping for someone to spot opponents in the forest. There are actually a lot of them there, but we just don't have the vision all the time, and so light artillery can't do that much. It will still weaken opponents somewhat, but the more important part here are the stakes. The opponents are closing in, they're getting rather close to us, they're pushing quite heavily. The light artillery will do all he can, and I will stay behind him. And when the moment arises, I will walk through him and engage the opponents. What actually makes our situation great is that we're in the forest and the stakes are deployed everywhere. They're pretty much on all three sides, and our rear is covered by a small cliff. Opponents don't pay attention and they actually somewhat march into it. Although these first units manage to avoid it, they are still taking some damage from it and from the light artillery as well. Actually, because he blocked his units, he saved a lot of troops here. But then again, there is a whole lot of them here. The light artillery is pulling out, and well, I'm going to need to pull out as well. I can leave this one to die, and I can use the other two to defend the light artillery in a different location. Well, the scorched earth didn't make this thing easier for me. But fortunately, the stakes put up by the light artillery paid off. The Falksmen pretty much killed themselves up on it. Because the stakes are still there, they're gonna cause a lot of damage. So it doesn't matter, there's still going to be a lot of casualties here. The stakes pretty much destroyed a huge number of opponents. I think that some of these casualties are because of me. I left my one unit to fight there, and a lot of opponents just wanted to swarm it, but they did not know what were in the pushes. Falksmen probably got hit the hardest. They were the ones who killed themselves mostly upon the stakes. As you see here, the opponent's cavalry is hoping to get some kills as well. And our cavalry isn't very smart. He goes right in after it and kills a lot of his units upon the stakes. So one of my units routed back there. He is still capable to escape, but the casualties inflicted just in that area by the stakes, by the light artillery and my swordsmen was huge. So as usual with overwhelming numbers, we pull back and set up our defenses once again. This time into the swamp, and it will be a lot worse for the opponents. Although his idea is to build stakes tightly around him, I would have rather spread them out a bit more, but I can understand because there was cavalry coming towards him. So I'm also building stakes, just as a precaution for any opponents who might want to come towards us. You can already see that there is cavalry coming towards us, well, at least towards the light artillery. And these stakes, well, the cavalry will not pass these stakes and will suffer some casualties. Although for a brief moment after the charge, it seems that the cavalry knows what's happened, but then again they drive from another direction or a slight fixed direction and still end up dying. So now from the forest comes our third and last encounter. I'm trying to be clever here and build up stakes in this small pushy area between two small lakes. You could even say that this game has pretty much been a full ambush defense for me and the light artillery. And now the sword infantries will be coming towards us. They're trying to use the small grassy path between the two lakes, or the two swamp lakes, and well, pretty much in the end just go for it. pushing mindlessly through my stakes and losing more than half the troops he had remaining. This was a heavy casualty and the stakes were deployed really well. Although if they would have come with a bigger circle, I could have not used my stakes. But fortunately, he still went greedy and my stakes paid off. The stakes are probably the best things to use in the tall grass and perhaps sometimes even in the forest. Here we use them as a defensive tool to defend our position, to give us support. But you can also leave them in the forest as traps, deploying them and pulling your units back, creating a situation where opponents might not pay attention, rushing towards your base and end up losing a lot of troops. Anyways, this was the defense with 2 Sulla players. Hopefully the opponents and my team's cavalry who rushed into the stakes learned to be very careful of them and pay more attention in the forest. I often enough am just zoomed in the forest and tall grass to be sure that there aren't any stakes. That is probably the best way to see them. Anyways, don't forget to subscribe and thanks for watching.